Boris Johnson cannot distinguish between truth and lies. That's according to his former chief advisor, Dominic Cummings.
Yes, he's published a new blog claiming most people simply don't care that Boris Johnson lies. However, a viral video which has debunked many of the Prime Minister's statements has now reached more than 25 million views. Let's have a look.
We have cut CO2 emissions in this country since 2010 on 1990 levels by 42%. 42%. That is an astonishing achievement.
Well, it would be if it were true, but it's just another lie. CO2 emissions fell by 39% between 1990 and 2018, not from 2010 onwards.
The economy under this Conservative government has grown by 73%.
Another lie. In the period since 2010 and prior to the pandemic, it was about 20%. The 73% he's referring to is for the whole period since 1990, 13 years of which was under Labour governments.
We've restored the nurses' bursary.
Another lie. A maintenance grant for student nurses is not a return of the student nurses' bursary. Thanks to the Conservative government scrapping the nurses' bursary, they still have to pay extortionate tuition fees and still qualify tens of thousands of pounds in debt.
And ensure there will be a free hospital car parking for everybody who attends a hospital.
Just another lie.
Absolute poverty, relative poverty have both declined under this government, and there are hundreds of thousands, I think 400,000 fewer families living in poverty now than there were in 2010.
More lies. The number of people in relative poverty in the UK has increased from 13.6 million in 2010 to 14.5 million in 2019. And as for his claim that 400,000 fewer families are living in poverty, well, it appears he just made that up.
The app would be the icing on the cake. Well, if we can get it to work, it would be a fine thing, but there isn't one anywhere in the world so far.
Another lie. At the time, track and trace apps were being used in France, Germany, Australia, Poland, Latvia, Denmark, Japan, Italy.
He will know that the government is engaged in record investments in the NHS, £34 billion.
Another lie. In real terms, it's a spending increase of just £20.5 billion. The Institute for Fiscal Studies points out that's less than funding used to rise under Labour.
We've absolutely determined to support childcare.
You've just increased child benefit by 35 pence a week.
OK, well, that was Peter Stefanovic, who is a lawyer and campaigner. And we're going to talk to him right now, alongside Andrew Jimpson, who is Boris Johnson's biographer. So very good morning to you both. Peter Stefanovic, that's quite a litany of claims made by the Prime Minister in the House of Commons, which you say you can debunk and are actually disputed, or in your words, lies. Dominic Cummings, who worked closely with him, seems to suggest that the voters aren't that bothered. They like him anyway.
I think, hi Susanna, hi Alistair. I think that the astonishing reaction from the public to my film actually demonstrates that the public really do care about the almost rampant lying that we're witnessing in Parliament at the moment. And the film itself appears to have become a public protest at the outright lies that we're being seen told on the floor of the House practically every week. And it's the public themselves that have driven this film to over 25 million views in protest. Now, everything that I say in my film has been carefully fact-checked by various sources. And so what the Prime Minister is saying there is provably false. What you didn't see in the film was the clip, for instance, of Boris Johnson standing on the floor of the House at the dispatch box, telling MPs that relative poverty has declined under the Conservative government. And that's an appalling thing to say. I mean, even Larry the cat knows that relative poverty has increased by hundreds of thousands. He's also seen...
Peter, that's not true. How do you know that Larry the cat knows that?
The government has restored the nurses' bursary. Again, completely and utterly untrue. What they've done is introduced a £5,000 maintenance grant, but that's not restoring the nurses'
Okay, but
bursary,
Peter,
which previously covered
and we saw
tuition
that,
fees.
Yeah, we saw that in the film. I suppose that I am not here to defend the government. I'm not here to defend Boris Johnson. I'm here to, provide some balance on this. And I would probably expect the government to say, look, we've restored a bursary for nurses. That's how they can say that they've restored the nurses' bursary. It might be on different terms, it might cover different things, but does that make it a lie? And does that matter?
There is a world of difference, between standing at the dispatch box and saying, we've restored the nurses' bursary, which previously included the payment of tuition fees, and saying, we've introduced a £5,000 maintenance grant, which means that newly qualified nurses will still qualify tens of thousands of pounds in debt. Now, there are going to be different people interpreting this film in different ways. So you're going to have some people looking at it, as I do, and say, well, this Prime Minister is telling barefaced lies.
I was going to say, you've had a massive response to the film. However, the Prime Minister has a massive majority in Parliament, and he also had a historic win when the Tories took Hartlepool from Labour. So, once again, is this cutting through? The point is not these individual lies, as you call them, but is that getting, it doesn't seem to matter with the voters.
It's principle.
The Ministerial Code says that if a Member of Parliament inadvertently makes a false statement to Parliament, they've got to come back and correct the parliamentary record. So if we were to, by some stretch of the imagination, say that the Prime Minister simply doesn't know what he's talking about in Parliament and he's making mistakes over and over again with his statistics and his facts, the Ministerial Code says that he must come back and correct the parliamentary record. And if he doesn't do that, then he's broken the Ministerial Code.
OK, I want to bring in Andrew Jimson. Andrew, you know Boris Johnson better than we do. And, I mean, Peter has got a point there. When I was working with Tony Blair and Gordon Brown and other prime ministers and ministers in a Labour government, if you broke the Ministerial Code, then you were in real trouble. And not telling the truth at the dispatch box is a breach of the Ministerial Code. So has Boris Johnson just decided, as Susanna's saying, that because the public don't seem to care that much, telling the truth doesn't matter?
No, telling the truth in Parliament matters enormously. There's an excellent speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, who will uphold that. And other MPs can uphold that, and they can say. And in fact, the reason they can't call each other liars in the House is that otherwise, if I say, Alistair, you're a liar, it means I can't have a debate with you because I am immediately discounting any word that comes out of your mouth. And what I should be doing, and what MPs will do, is say, look.
MPs can't even say that's not true, Prime Minister.
Of course they well,
they can't.
No,
they
can say, how do you reconcile this statement you've made about the nurses' bursary with this official publication which shows that it's completely different?
Well, you've presumably watched Peter Stefanovic's video.
I have.
With this list of statements that Peter says are lies, told at the dispatch box by the Prime Minister of this country, who is supposed to uphold those standards. How would you defend them?
I'm writing a book about Boris Johnson, and only this week I looked at what he said in Downing Street when he became Prime Minister, and also what he said at the general election. And he said he would get Brexit done, and he was telling the truth. He did. And actually, that's what voters notice. They don't notice. They know that he's. They're not employing him.
The principle of telling the truth.
Well, of course, the principle of telling the truth is very, very important. But there are big truths.
So you mentioned, but hold on, you mentioned Brexit, OK? And
yes.
As you know,
that rouses you.
No, well, no, I'll tell you what rouses me in Northern Ireland. That really rouses me.
Oh, right, yes.
And he said, before he did the deal, he said there will be no checks, no border over my dead body. He then did the deal with the checks, and even after that said there will be no checks, there are no checks. And now we know there are, and there's chaos and potential upheaval of a really serious nature. Now, that is a lie.
It was wishful thinking. But I think anyone who studies the Irish settlement, the settlement reached under Tony Blair, knows that there is constructive ambiguity in that settlement.
I accept that.
And different people interpret it.
I accept that, but that is different.
Hang on,
that is saying there's no checks.
OK, Andrew, I just want to hear you finish a point. So how do you defend
something had to give.
that?
He wasn't going to get a Brexit
no border,
deal
and there are checks.
Well, there are checks in one direction. Stuff that goes from Northern Ireland to the mainland, no checks. So
hold on a minute, but what is happening now in Northern Ireland is in direct contradiction to what he promised and to what he said he had signed up to.
The Irish problem or question was completely insoluble in logical terms, and he oversold it. I completely agree with that. But anyone who took these assurances at face value wanted to be deceived.
But we're in chaos.
Hang on. We're not in chaos. We're in a democracy, and people take the lesser of two evils, and they thought 14 million. I mean, this is the real problem for those who want to sort of get on their high horse and say our Prime Minister is a liar. What do they then say about the 17 million people who voted Leave, or the nearly 14 million people who voted for the Conservatives? Are they all either fools or liars themselves?
They were entitled to believe the
politicians. That was the lesser of two evils, and that this man actually was telling the truth about the most important things, the most important elements in his policy.
I love this, Andrew, because we have now come up with a whole list of things that we can call it instead of lying. It's wishful thinking.
Yes.
It's overselling.
It's exaggerating, which journalists do all the time. Every front page that's ever been published contains exaggeration.
And it's wanting to be lied to. So
but isn't that the problem?
It's not the fault of the politician, it's the fault of the printer.
I mean, T.S. Eliot said that. Humankind cannot bear too much reality.
Peter Stefanovic.
I'm sure Andrew is a terribly, terribly nice guy, but what he's saying, he literally wants me to tear my own eyeballs out. I mean, we've all seen the interview that Boris Johnson did with Sophie Ridge. And Sophie Ridge looked Boris Johnson in the eye and said, OK, so you're telling me your Brexit secretary is wrong. Your own impact assessment is wrong. Business leaders are wrong. Everyone is wrong. And you are right. There will be no checks on goods going from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. And he looked her in the eye and said, yes, I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. There will be no checks. Now, this isn't a man who isn't paying attention to detail. That was a serious, barefaced lie.
But can people trust you when it comes to Brexit? Because last month, you told businesses in Northern Ireland that they would face no forms, no checks, no barriers of any kind under your Brexit deal. And you also went on to say that if anyone asked them to fill out a form, they should phone you up personally and you'll direct them to throw that form in the bin. Well, how come then that this government document that was leaked this week says that that's not true, that there will be checks and forms? Were you telling the truth?
Yes, I am. And look at what we say in our manifesto, look what we're going to deliver. The deal that we've done with the EU...
So will there be checks?
No, absolutely not. The deal we've done with the EU is a brilliant deal.
This document is talking about checks both ways.
And that's wrong, because there won't be checks.
So you're saying that this is wrong, the government's own impact assessment is wrong, your Brexit secretary is wrong, all these people are wrong, and you're right?
Yes, because there's no question of there being checks on goods going NIGB or GBNI.
Now, I look at my parents, who I don't have any with me anymore, sadly, and when I think about them, I remember their stoic honesty. You know, they would never lie, they would never deceive, they would never mislead. And I believe that the majority of people in this country feel the same way. And that's why so many people have driven this film of mine to 25 million views. People do care. People do care about lying. Most of us are honest. I wouldn't lie, you wouldn't lie. I don't expect our parliamentarians to do it either.
Andrew, are you basically saying that politics is all about white lies?
No, but there is palpably a large element of deception. And if you're having a major negotiation, you don't say at the beginning, my bottom line is, basically, I would settle for this. For example, Johnson said he would leave without a deal. Well, no one ever knew whether that was the truth or not.
No,
and
that
was part of the point of it.
After he did the deal, he said something that was untrue.
Oh, dear,
and it's now playing out.
You're getting very angry now.
Well, I'm not angry.
Basically, you're not angry about the lies. You're angry about Brexit.
No, I'm not, actually. Well, I am angry about Brexit.
Yes, you are. You're absolutely furious about it.
No, but this is what you do, you see. You throw it back into different things. That is classic whataboutery. I do believe that when we were in government with Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, etc., who was called a liar, Tony Blair was called a liar.
Afraid, yeah.
He wasn't, I'm afraid. And what's more, 6 inquiries have shown that. And you don't seem to care that we now have a Prime Minister who lies.
I think Tony Blair was just as honourable as Boris Johnson and just as honourable as Benjamin Disraeli, actually. We've had various great
This
Prime
is what
Ministers who have
populism
been
has done.
cavalier about...
What populism has done is mean that truth is no longer a factor in our politics. That is a disaster for this country, Andrew.
Those kind of moral lectures will never bring the Labour Party back into office.
Well, if you think
people want to live and let
politics,
live in this country.
Try and find some principles and try and tell me that.
Yeah, one of the
principles
is having a referendum. And I mean, I voted Remain myself, but so I'm just distressed by the outcome of it.
Yeah.
But if you have a referendum and say we will honour the result, then you have to honour the result.
Do you have to tell the truth about the deal that you've done?
Well, of course, you should try to tell the truth about it.
So that is the ministerial code now. We should try to tell the truth.
Yes, of course you should. But fallibility is actually a human characteristic.
Correct.
And you won't find any human who is infallible.
Well,
not even you.
It's a brilliant debate, and we appreciate your company, Andrew Jimpson, Peter Stefanovic. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Indeed.
Thank you.